You may be wondering why a course in emotional intelligence is included in a leadership orientation. Maybe you're asking yourself, when will I ever use emotional intelligence? Or maybe this is your first introduction to emotional intelligence. If you are thinking any of the above, please continue on and find out how instrumental emotional intelligence truly is each and every day in your professional as well as personal life. You are probably familiar with IQ, the intelligence quotient. IQ typically is used to measure intellectual capacity, and it is predictive of academic or educational achievement. EQ, or the emotional quotient, is also a predictive measure, and it quantifies your emotional intelligence. But unlike IQ, it is often linked to an individual's ability to foster personal growth, interact effectively with others, and build relationships. EQ measures emotional and social competence. In fact, a high EQ has even been noted to contribute more to an individual's professional success than intellectual ability, technical skills, and personality combined. You may not even realize the critical role of emotional intelligence in everyday interactions. Are you responsible for providing customer service to company clients? Do you coach and mentor employees? Do you effectively build a network within your organization to foster partnerships across departments or business units? Do you facilitate team meetings or deliver presentations? In all of these situations, you are using emotional intelligence. By now, you are probably wondering, how can I develop my emotional intelligence and increase my EQ? That is a great question. But before we explore ways to develop your emotional intelligence, we have to take a closer look at the different facets that make up emotional intelligence. There are several different levels of emotional intelligence, each one building upon the prior level. Just remember this, it all begins with you. Emotional intelligence is your ability to recognize, understand, and control your emotions within the context of a situation to adapt and effectively manage your actions, reactions, and behaviors. Emotional intelligence begins with self-awareness and self-management. Recognizing your emotions and controlling your responses may seem like an easy task, but let's try this exercise. Think about the last scary movie that you saw. What was it? Now, think about how that movie made you feel. Were you scared, nervous, apprehensive, anxious, excited, enthusiastic? Most likely, you experienced a combination of several different emotions, all of which impacted your response to this scary movie. As you can probably begin to see, identifying individual emotions and recognizing your response or behavior directly linked to each emotion is a challenging task. The next level of emotional intelligence brings in relationships and your interactions with others. Once you are able to recognize and understand your own emotions within the context of a situation, link your behavioral responses to these emotions, and control your emotional and behavioral responses, you are able to adapt the way you respond to others. This next level involves social awareness and relationship management. At this level, you are able to understand how your emotions and behaviors impact the emotions and behaviors of others, both in a positive and a negative way, and you are able to adapt your behaviors in response to the other person. Now let's take a closer look at each aspect of emotional intelligence. Self-awareness begins with fostering the ability to accurately self-assess your emotions. You become more aware of the different emotions you may be feeling. This leads to self-confidence. As an example, let's say that every time you deliver a presentation to a large group, you become enthusiastic, excited, and this is your chance to shine because you excel at public speaking. By the way, if this does not describe you, think of a skill that you do excel at. You are able to predict your response for similar experiences in the future. You are able to reasonably assume that the next time you are required to speak to a large group, you will be excited, enthusiastic, and you will perform well. Therefore, knowing this information about yourself, you will develop self-confidence for this activity. This in turn will help you perform even better. There is one other aspect to self-awareness, your inner compass. When you are aware of yourself and your emotions, you often develop a deeper understanding of your values and what is important to you. You are able to develop a strong inner compass to guide your decisions and your actions. Now it is your turn to try this. Think of a situation that occurred during the last few days that was accompanied by strong emotions for you. This may be a very happy or exciting experience, or an experience that was not very positive. Now spend a few moments to think about the emotions you felt during this experience. Once you have built this self-awareness, you are able to use this knowledge about yourself to influence your actions and behaviors. When you are able to identify and predict experiences where you will be successful, those experiences that make you enthusiastic, excited, and happy, your motivation and initiative to undertake those activities increases. Your internal drive becomes stronger. You are also more optimistic and open to new situations. You are able to recognize how you felt and responded in similar situations in the past, and you can apply this to new situations in the future. You have a better method for predicting the outcome, and this reduces the anxiety often associated with unknown situations. In turn, you are open to being more innovative because you can predict the outcome. Finally, related to your inner compass and personal values, you will likely demonstrate traits such as honesty, integrity, and accountability. Strong values often are manifested as strong character traits such as these. I would like you to return to the situation you were thinking of earlier during the exercise when you identified your emotions. Now, I would like you to try to identify the behavioral reactions to those emotions. How did you respond in this situation, and which emotions were driving those responses? Please take a few moments to think about your actions and behaviors. Which emotions were driving your actions and behaviors? Now for the challenge. If you had been aware of the emotions you were feeling, and you made an intentional effort to change those emotions, would this have resulted in different behaviors? How would your behaviors change if the emotions had been different? The next level of emotional intelligence is social awareness and relationship management. To begin with social awareness, the most critical attribute is empathy. You have already learned how to effectively identify your own emotional responses. Now, empathy allows you to recognize the emotional responses of others. Why is this so important? Because you need to recognize the impact you have on others. How do you make them feel? Are your team members at work enthusiastic to work with you, and do they look forward to sharing ideas with you? Or are they apprehensive and nervous around you? Empathy allows you to understand their perspective and recognize not only how others feel, but also which of your behaviors and actions may be making them feel that way. And it is important to remember each person is different. Different people will react in different ways to different actions and behaviors. Empathy requires that you put yourself in the shoes of each person to truly understand their feelings and perspective. Once you understand the impact of your behaviors on the emotions of others, you are able to adapt your behaviors to influence the emotions and responses of others. For instance, when providing negative performance feedback, you may recognize that if you become frustrated and angry, your behaviors represent these emotions, and it may cause your employee to become nervous and distraught. He or she may then respond with behaviors that are quiet and withdrawn. However, if you are calm, positive, and encouraging when providing this feedback, and your behaviors represent these emotions through your tone of voice and body language, your employee will likely be calm and positive as well. In turn, your employee will likely share more information and seek your guidance and support. This leads to a collaborative and open partnership between you and your employee. Do you see how both of these scenarios begin with your emotions but influence your employee in very different ways? When you are able to master relationship management, you are able to communicate more effectively, coach and develop others, resolve conflicts, and inspire others to achieve their personal best. We have now looked at each aspect of emotional intelligence. Hopefully, you are recognizing that emotional intelligence is a skill you can develop and strengthen over time and with practice. You may also be thinking, however, that this is probably not an easy task. Let's walk through an exercise together that will help you get started with the process of developing and strengthening your emotional intelligence. This exercise builds self-awareness, which we now know as the building block to emotional intelligence. To begin building your self-awareness, it begins with observing your emotions. How are you feeling? You can ask yourself this question in any situation. Remember, the context is important because the context or the situation often drives your natural emotional responses. As a first step, try to identify the varied emotions that may be interacting together. Often, there will be many emotions that you are feeling, not just one. Next, interpret the environment. Ask yourself, what is going on around me? This will allow you to identify key aspects about the situation and the context. This is how you can create relationships between the environment and your emotions. You want to direct your emotions to specific aspects of the environment. What is happening in your environment that is causing you to feel this way? Reflect on this knowledge. Have you been in similar situations in the past? Have you felt the same way? Is there a pattern to your emotions? Once you are able to identify patterns, you are able to start predicting how you will feel and respond in similar situations in the future. Let's take a brief step away to celebrate. Reward yourself for working on becoming more self-aware. Celebrate your efforts to grow, learn, and develop. And finally, repeat this exercise in a variety of contexts and situations to strengthen your self-awareness skills. Finally, here is a fun exercise to try out this process using music. Think for a moment about this question. Have you ever heard a song and that song was able to transport you back to a time in your past and all of a sudden you experienced those same emotions all over again? What was the song? Music is very powerful. Often music can represent a context, a situation, or even emotions. For this exercise, we will be using music as a metaphor for workplace culture. Here is an example. When you walk into work every Monday morning, do you hear Flight of the Bumblebee or do you hear a funeral march? I would encourage you to take this music exercise back to your work team. Ask your employees and team members, what song do they think best describes their work environment? It may reveal a lot about how your employees and team members feel every day when they come to work. In this session, you have learned about the 2 levels and 4 aspects of emotional intelligence. In summary, emotional intelligence is your ability to recognize, understand, and control your emotional responses within the context of a situation so that you are able to impact your surrounding environment and the people in that environment. Thank you for attending Course 2 in the SOAR Leadership Development Program.